Hello, my name is Kolo, and welcome back to another Spice and Wolf episode review. Okay, and we're back with episode 17. This episode covers most of chapter 4 of volume 3 of the light novel. Okay, let's begin. So first off, I kind of want to talk about how the town looks. I really like this whole scenery. I really like how the town looks. I think the background art is probably the best part so far about this art over the original. So the episode basically begins where we left off, with the festival ending as so. Even though it's not the last day and Lawrence remembering what just happened. Then the opening plays and we see Lawrence meet up with Mark at his stall. And he wants to know which way the wind is blowing, or basically how the market is doing on pyrite. Lawrence wants a drop to happen with the pyrite so Marty loses out a bit, but it would be pretty predictable and Mark doesn't see Marty falling for it. So after that, Lawrence heads back to the inn and he thinks about how Holo has helped him so far with his business and trading wise, and how if Holo was helping him here, it'd be a lot easier. Then he sees some merchants selling pyrite and talking about how it's gone up and how it'll keep going up. And so after that, he gets back to the inn and he sees Holo seeing off Marty. And after that, Lawrence readies himself and goes back into the inn. And the innkeeper has a letter for Lawrence that Holo wrote. Actually, she didn't write it. She had someone else write it for her. And that letter had the details to all of Marty's funds. Lawrence also sees that Holo has signed this contract, the marriage contract, in fact. And basically, she's putting the pressure on him, saying that if he doesn't win this little bout with Marty, she'll leave him. So then, as fast as he can, Lawrence goes out to find Marty, looking for him at different bars. And finally, he finds him at a quiet bar. And Lawrence first proposes a deal. Marty is a little suspicious, of course. Lawrence says that he wants Marty to buy his pyrite off of him. Marty thinks he's joking with this deal, knowing that he's already making money selling the pyrite, and he gets a little angry because of this. But then Lawrence says he wants to do this on credit. Lawrence then starts to explain more of this to Marty, telling him that he'll sell him pyrite currently worth 500 trenny right now at current market value tomorrow evening. And Lawrence also wants the money right now. And Lawrence will hand over the pyrite tomorrow evening. And after this, Lawrence almost explains the whole thing to Marty, saying even if the price rises, he still has to give him the pyrite. And the same if it dips down. Marty is confused by this because he thinks Lawrence could just trade normally. But then Marty starts thinking about it more and he sees why he's doing this. Lawrence is hoping by selling on credit that he'll make a profit if the money increases. But Lawrence wants the value to decrease. So if the value goes up, Marty wins. And if the value goes down, Lawrence wins. Lawrence then states that he's challenging Marty to a duel. After explaining all of this to him, Marty doesn't think this will be fair because it's too disadvantageous to Lawrence. He thinks this because even if there's a small rise in price, he could easily reach his goal of 1,000 coins. Lawrence then brings up Holo, and that she could say yes or no, and that Lawrence's disadvantage is minor compared to his. Marty brings up that Lawrence and Holo had a fight, but then Lawrence tells Marty that Polo has cried in his arms many times, and that she's pretty cute when she's like that. And Amarty gets pretty mad at this, with basically Lawrence flexing, and that was enough to tip him over the edge to accept this deal. And now he wants to take everything from Lawrence. There's a little bit of the light novel they cut out of this, explaining that Amarty didn't have the 500 pieces of silver on hand, and Lawrence lets him substitute 3 of his horses for the remaining 200 he didn't have. And this meant that Amarty had 800 silver pieces with Holo's information, and that even if the value of the pyrite rise by 25%, he would have enough. When I look at this whole section, it's not as difficult as I thought it was the first time I watched and read this scene. If I compare it to World and Economica Hasakura's other series, it's way easier. World and Economica deals with mostly stock trading, and that game is way harder to understand than this. So then after Lawrence is done proposing this deal, he goes back to Mark and drinks. He talks to Mark more about the pyrite, and Lawrence wants him to spread a rumor. Lawrence wants this rumor to make the pyrite go down. Lawrence then, after asking Mark to set up that rumor, tells him that he wants Mark to buy a large amount of pyrite. Mark then tells Lawrence that he can't do that, and Lawrence doesn't really understand. But then Mark explains that if he does that, his whole livelihood / standing in his own town could go down, and that because he's a town merchant, he doesn't want to go ahead with this get rich quick scheme, and he'd be looked at differently if he did this, and he'd be risking his honor and his family's honor. And this is a little humbling to Lawrence, understanding that he is a traveling merchant and the differences between a traveling one and a town one. Mark then brings up Diana and how she might be able to help him by acquiring pyrite from her, and that he might be able to do this because people didn't really want to work with the alchemist. And then Lawrence goes off to meet up with Batos, running there as fast as he can. That's the end of this episode. I like this quite a bit because it had a lot of economics involved, and I like that a lot. I hope I explained this part well enough. As I said with the last part, I think the aesthetics of the town really come through with this adaptation, especially the festival. But I think I'm going to end today's review here. Tune in next week to see what happens next.